We're going to move on next to Boston, newcomer to the league, and normally when a new team comes into the league, you know, it takes them 2 or 3 years to get, you know, acquainted, acclimatized, etc., etc. But when you get Dan Dawson and you get a goalie like Anthony Cosmo, you're not an instant contender, but that's a pretty good start.
You know,
in 2 critical positions.
Sure, I didn't think they were going to stand much of a chance until Chicago folded. Then that brought over a couple of guys. I'm not really sure it is, but they got the first pick and on the dispersal draft.
Yeah.
So that made them just that little bit stronger.
Yeah.
And with Anthony Cosmo and Dan Dawson, they're going to be a spoiler. Don't anybody out there take them, take them lightly.
Yeah.
And on the east coast of the States, Lacrosse is a big game. Let's hope that they can introduce the field fans down there to the indoor version.
Yeah, yeah, and I agree. I think it's going to be a team that's going to compete. They're going to compete hard. I don't think they're going to win a ton of games, but if you've got solid goaltending and you've got a star that can put the ball in the net, I think the big challenge for them is going to be the depth on the team. And again, it's only because of the fact that they're a brand new team in the league. You know, all these other teams are well-established teams with a number of stars at both ends of the floor. There's only so many guys left.
Yeah.
You know, give them a year or two, but again, I think they'll compete.
I do too.
Last team that we're going to touch on, and we specifically wanted to save this till the last, was the Rochester Nighthawks. What the heck is going on in Rochester?
Well, excuse my vernacular, if any team took a kick in the stones this year in the off season, it was the Rochester Nighthawks. My goodness, John, you almost lose not just a player, you almost loses his life. Your best player, with the greatest set of hands that I ever had the pleasure of watching, Johnny Grant, will not be playing this year, as we all know the story. Scott Evans, their next big hard guy, he goes down with a knee injury. They just dumped their coach a couple of weeks ago out of the middle of nowhere and bring in Paul Gate to coach. Then they add his brother Gary Gate on the floor as a 41-year-old. I just think it's a blatant attempt to put butts in the seats. I really don't think it's going to make that big a difference. Because once again, go back to guys like we see on the New York Titans that are 24, 25 years old that can run the 100-yard dash and maybe 11 flat and weigh 280 pounds. I don't care. You can have 14 Gary Gates out there, and you're not going to stop guys like this. So I just definitely think it was an attempt to put butts in the seats to save money for the franchise. Sean Williams, my old friend, is going to have to step up this year, and that's his team now. He's the veteran,
and he will.
Yeah, and I agree with that. He's a great guy, classy guy, always in good shape. And the other guy, Sean Evans, now in his 3rd year as a 23-year-old or 22-year-old in the National Lacrosse League. He's never looked out of place. He has to mature a bit and keep himself on the floor and out of the penalty box, because it may come down to him to carry this team on his back.
Yeah.
You know, that's a given. It's a franchise that's had its ups and downs over the years, and I don't want to go out on a limb like I said about Minnesota last year not being that great, and that was a dumb thing to say, but I hope I'm wrong, but I don't see Rochester doing much this year.
Well, you know, John Grant Jr. is a big enough blow.
Yeah.
So now you're going to lean on Scott Evans. Well, Scott Evans is out.
Yeah.
You know, and now you're down to Sean Williams and Sean Evans, and not that those two guys can't get it done, but when you look at the firepower that they've had in years past, and I'm looking at the guys that have left or injured. I mean, Grant and Evans, okay, are gone. Matt Lyons, Stephen Hoare, Andrew Potter, Scott Ditzel. I mean, he's just only unsigned. There's just a lot of guys there that they're not there.
Yeah.
And you know, this was a team that struggled last year and didn't make the playoffs last year. You know, now you take Grant and Scott Evans out of the lineup.
Yeah.
I agree with you. I think it's going to be a tough sled for them this year. But it's 2009 now, and just like 2008, anybody's going to beat anyone else in any week. I do agree. I think Sean Williams, you know, when Grant got hurt a couple of years back and missed a few games, Williams elevated his game to another level.
Yeah.
If Sean Evans can do that as well, and Williams can do that again, they can compete. I don't know that it's going to be as much as they're not going to be a good team, as much as other teams in the East have gotten a lot better.
And excuse me, the other thing that Rochester does have going for them is deep pockets.
Yep.
Their ownership is extremely solid. They're very well set up money-wise, and don't put it past them if 4 or 5 games into the season things aren't going well, that they buy somebody. You know, definitely, because they have the ability to do it. You know, I'm just looking at the press release here for the Gate brothers joining Rochester, and all it talks about is what each of them have done and all their records and all that kind of stuff. That's why I said it was a blatant attempt at publicity, just to make sure the fans come out to the games, and hopefully they can survive the season financially.
Well, I think it's going to be really interesting to see Gary Gate play, though. You know, he's 42 now, 41, 42.
Yep.
I mean, when Gary Gate played in his 20s, he was the best player in the world, no doubt about it. You know, he's a few years out of the game, a few years removed from the game. I still think he's going to be a very effective player, but he's not going to be Gary Gate.
No.
That's just my opinion, and I hope I'm wrong. You know, he's in his 40s now, and we all slow down and as we get a little bit older. I think he's going to be a very effective player, but he's not going to be the Gary Gate that we all knew 15 years ago.
Definitely not.
So that's pretty much going to wrap up the Eastern Division. We're going to take one more quick break here. We'll come back. We'll give it who we feel is going to be the 2 representatives and possibly a surprise team from each division, and then who we ultimately think is going to be Champions Cup champions for 2009.
Okay.